Good morning, everybody. It's time for your morning ice. What's happening, everybody? This is In the Crease of Time. You see a little morning ice. Let's go over last night's hockey games in the NHL. Of course, the Toronto Maple Leafs come up with their first victory over the New York Rangers, scoring, 5 goals in the second period. They take New York in New York to spoil their home opener and raising of the Eastern Conference champion banner. 6-3 is your final. Head out to Los Angeles, a similar team that has struggled in their first 2 games. They take the Winnipeg Jets at home, a much-needed victory for the Los Angeles Kings to sort of reestablish themselves for this year for another run at the Stanley Cup. They take Winnipeg 4-1. Yeah. And from the Windy City, Chicago, dead on. Dave, what's happening, brother?
What's going on, partner?
I'm ready to go. This is really, if you really think about it, Shot from the Point Live is the start of our week, and Shot from the Point Live is the start of our week, and this is the start of, really, from Sunday to Thursday, we've got podcasts and broadcasts and all things of that nature going and rolling, and I think we're about ready to get it going, especially talk about last night's Toronto Maple Leafs win and New York Rangers loss. They really look like the rags. As
it's early. It's early. Everyone's freaking out. It's early. Everybody's freaking out. I know this happens in most sports, but my God, people are freaking out early in the NHL.
You know why? It's the advanced stats thing.
I guess
it's the discomfort with it. It's fear of the unknown, for so to speak. With it's the advanced stat thing. Is this a good idea? You know, if you, in theory, if you invest too much in this advanced stats thing and it doesn't work out, you're in a friggin' hole come December. And games in January mean something, especially after the All-Star break. You have to get that halfway point. So I think there's a lot of nerves based on a hypothesis.
I just want to put this in perspective real quick. Take 10 seconds. Oh, probably 20. But if the season ended today, the playoff teams would be Montreal, New Jersey, Pittsburgh, Columbus, Islanders, Washington, Tampa, and Detroit. And that's in the East. And in the West, it'd be Minnesota, San Jose, Nashville, Chicago, Vancouver, LA, St. Louis, and Anaheim. There'd be some really good teams on the outs, such as the Colorado Avalanche that was everybody's Cinderella favorite.
Sure.
How about your New York Rangers? The Boston fucking Bruins, Philadelphia, a bunch of teams that people had going deep. Let me tell you, it's 3 games in for most teams. Let's all calm down, take a breath. Long fucking, and I think we all know who I'm talking to, Mr. Joe Cronin. Calm down.
But I think the thing is, if you're referencing Joe's video, in fact, I'm really
epic rant. Yes,
yeah, his epic rant and what have you. But the thing is, he said something that really caught my ear, and I mentioned this in the last show, Shot from the Point Live, which I will put in the description box below if this is your first time with the Shot from the Point YouTube channel. He mentioned who are the Bruins. And the Bruins were one of the toughest teams in the league for the last basically 5 years. They were ridiculously difficult. Guys like Alex Ovechkin couldn't run around and dance around on the ice. They also made a recent decision to go with a guy like David Krejci instead of Johnny Boychuk, a guy with more grit. So, they don't completely dismiss the enforcer role by bringing up Bobby Robbins and moving fan favorite Sean Thornton to the Florida Panthers. They're not completely dismissing that, but I mean, one of the reasons the decision was made is because Robbins had better CORSI ratings in the minors.
Yeah.
So, according to Joe, and I did only flip through that game, that they weren't responding like they had responded to in the past. So, he's a little bit nervous. Let me let me play two things he gave me right here. I'll play it right
It's
now.
a good question to ask, but again, 3 games in.
The only thing is, I don't really agree. I disagree with what you said about the Bruins and everything. The thing is, like, they got rid of Thornton, but then they added Bobby Robbins, and he fights every game, and he's crazy. So they really did bring back the enforcer. That's not the point. But the point really is that they're missing the toughness as a team. It's not there.
And I agree with them, but here's what I responded with.
You're missing my point a little bit. I'm not calling the Bruins a bunch of pushbacks. What's going on, and it's not just with the Bruins, is these decisions based on advanced stats, things like CORSI. Sean Thornton was moved because his CORSI was low, and Bobby Robbins was moved in because his CORSI was higher. It's not that they didn't think they needed an enforcer, but it changed the whole outlook of the team. This is not the only team that's doing stuff like this. The New York Rangers are doing stuff like this. The Toronto Maple Leafs are doing stuff like this. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the Bruins are a bunch of pushbacks, but when you make the decision to sign a guy like Krejci and let a guy like Boychuk go to the Islanders, you're making those decisions based on stats and not toughness. Who are the Bruins? Not as tough as they were last year.
That's why people are freaking out.
Yeah, see, but I have a little bit of a counter to that. I think that there's a couple things to keep in mind here. We don't know how many teams are making all of their decisions based on CORSI. I'm not sure that it's as high as some people thinking it is. It's probably 30-40% of the league.
We could safely say the Leafs. That's a very good point, Dave. We don't know. But if the idea is puck control and the guys at puck control have less toughness levels, then I mean, I think it's reasonable to assume. The Rangers didn't bring back Daniel Carcillo. He's a spark plug. The Leafs really don't have any kind of spark plug with the outside possibility of Clarkson. It's basically what the advanced stats telling us is puck possession is no one more important than toughness. And it's not that the Bruins are a bunch of wusses and what have you. It's just a simple fact that we're kind of in scary territory and it could fall flat in their face. Everybody's buying into this. It just by appearance. Now you bring up a really good point. We don't know. We don't know how they're viewing this. We don't know if they're doing it wrong as far as the way advanced stats were intended. By the way, I apologize for the volume of those two things. There's nothing I could have really done about that. I apologize to the listeners. But I thought it was a really good point. And, look, Joe's not an NHL guy.
No, but he knows his team.
He knows his team real well. And I thought that was a really good point. I thought, who are the Bruins? What are they trying to be? And it just appears to me, we don't know for a fact, as you said on Dead on Dave, what's the plan here? We don't know.
I think also with the Bruins especially, and teams like the Bruins and the Blackhawks who are so up against the cap, I really feel that the Boychuk move in particular, and maybe not so much the Thornton move, but the Boychuk move in particular, I believe was like 95% cap based.
Oh, so do I. But why not ditch Krejci and keep Boychuk?
I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand it. But you know what? There's another thing that a lot of other sports have been doing for years when they take into consideration, especially a sport like the NFL, which I know is really difficult to compare because one game is 1/16 of their season. So I understand that there's a big difference there. But it's upside versus downside. Older players in the NHL seem to have a longer lifespan on the ice than they do in almost any other sport, maybe except baseball, and even that's changing.
It is. Oh, I think the better players do, but I think the average career is 5-7.
So maybe that
years, yeah.
is the paradigm that's starting to shift in the NHL, where they're starting to focus more on younger talent. Maybe that has to do with more decisions than CORSI at this point. We don't know yet.
Then why trade Tyler Seguin, a guy who looks like he may be a franchise pick? So I mean, it's just like what are the Bruins doing? Who are the Bruins? What do they want to be? What is the goal here? Is the goal here to follow the fat? Is the goal here to put the best, toughest team? And it doesn't look like that. And we saw that a little bit in the Montreal season. We saw, Joe mentioned in his rant that he thought that it would happen last year, but it ended up happening this year. So, I mean, I think these are legitimate questions.
Absolutely. I just feel it's 3 games in. Let's all take a breath.
And Dave, I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm right, and what have you, but it's just like...
no, there is no wrong and right. That's the beauty.
Everybody's creeped out. I mean, we had a situation that they're going to get into a little later where Don Cherry got his time cut. He's now doing only 5 minutes. Is everything tough about the NHL being sort of swept under the rug slowly but surely just to maybe keep guys around when the ultimate comes in and they sweep the enforcer under the rug and maybe toughen us all together. Here's another thing. I don't believe for a minute, people might think I'm crazy, but in 10 years, if they do sweep things like enforcer under the rug, I don't know that they'll sweep hitting under the rugs. I don't know if that's out of the question. That sounds ridiculous on the surface, but so would have sweeping enforcers under the rug 10 years ago. So 10 years from now, are we talking about
basically
maybe
going more
to
an Olympic style, right?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Well, I mean, look, there's a lot of hard hitting in the Olympics, but it would not shock me if there was some kind of movement came out of nowhere. It doesn't exist now to say that look, hockey can be enjoyed without hitting, and then we have like RHI 14, 15 games. All right.
No, you're right, especially if it makes it more marketable, which I don't think it makes it marketable.
I don't think it makes
in their
it
minds
marketable.
It's going to, because all this anti-shit against violence right now in every other sport.
No, it's not anti-shit against violence. It's anti-shit about masculinity. That's really what I believe it is.
Sports is the same thing.
And look, the NFL is one of the most popular sports in the world for a reason. It's tough. UFC has basically come out of the backroom brawling rooms of Japan and is now a mainstream sport. People want to see tough guys. It's not necessarily an opposition of violence. I think of violence, I think of people murdering everybody. It's not violence to me. It's a tough sport. Yes, fighting's violent. The sport is violent, but I don't see it as violence. I see violence as a negative. I see this is a tough sport, and yes, it's a violent sport. But as far as I don't know. Maybe I don't want to be sounding because I just got a problem with the language. But you're not necessarily wrong. Yeah, I don't.
No, it's just terminology. Yeah, and you know what? When people hear the word violence,
I'm not crazy about the term.
It means different things to other people.
But it's just like let's end violence in our sports. I could see that campaign in a couple years. It just doesn't
absolutely.
It doesn't seem that unrealistic to me.
It's crazy.
You remember that movie Demolition Man? And they at one point they slowly mentioned that they banned contact sports.
They banned contact altogether. They had sex with a virtual reality device. I don't want to live there.
Jesus, I don't know. Yeah, what happened? What's the message of that film? You have two guys. You have two guys that are willing to kick ass, and they pretty much run the gambit. And that's what I would do against these teams. The Columbus Blue Jackets look big and nasty. The Flyers don't. And they've been getting their ass kicked. I mean, look. Let's move into the Rangers Leafs. Okay, look, the Rangers play the Leafs later. They get blown out by the Leafs. We have two what I think are soft teams, and the better puck possession team, which is obviously the Toronto Maple Leafs, and that is what we know for a fact that's what they're going for. They beat the softer team with better puck possession. Won the game. In fact, they blew the Rangers out. In fact, they scored 5 goals in the period, and every time the Rangers got something going again, the Leafs just answered. It was almost like on cue.
To be fair, in this game in particular, I'm not sure how much of it had to do with anything other than Lundqvist being unbelievably cold, because let's keep in mind, all 6 goals were scored on him in the first 2.5 periods. After he came out, they didn't give up another fucking goal.
Yeah.
So you have to wonder how much was he having an off night, which happens in the NHL. Even great goalies have these fucking type of performances.
Sure. And
it's anomalies. Hockey's different than other sports.
Sure, I do, but I did see the puck possession, and I'm not an anti-stats guy. I'm not opposed to CORSI. By the way, if you're interested in CORSI, I got a website right in the description box below called War on Ice, and you can start getting used to that because whether you like it or not, I really believe, and I think it's fair to say that a lot of these decisions are being made on CORSI. CORSI is something to keep an eye on. But, I mean, I guarantee you that Toronto had the better CORSI rating, 2 soft teams. Here's how I deal with, as a coach, as CORSI ratings. I don't necessarily call up, I said this yesterday in the show to kind of be over the top. I don't necessarily call up goons, so to speak, because if you get in a fight and the guy gets sent off, he gets sent off. It's no way. But I do. One of the callers that called in, his name was Matthew Cesar. He said the new enforcer is more likely going to be somebody like a Wayne Simmons, a guy that can skate, dangle, fight, and be a pest at the same time. That's what I'm doing. I'm being physical guys that are going to be a pest and beat the hell out of the other team. That's what with a really aggressive forecheck and just being tough and mean. That's what the Columbus Blue Jackets did to the Rangers on Saturday. That's how you deal with these advanced stats guy. You pummel them. You pummel the opposite team. And I tell you something. That's if I was a coach right now, and I am by no means a hockey man of that level, of that stature. I'm an amateur broadcaster at best. But from what I can see and what I've learned about hockey in the last 25 years, I would take a team like that, small, soft, unable to respond, and I would intimidate them. And I said this yesterday. Dave Rose thought it was brilliant, and I don't know if it's brilliant or not, but I will say this. There's no advanced stat for fear. That's it. That's what I would do. And here's my fear. When they start to realize that advanced stats aren't working because you can out muscle the other team, you're going to see all these people flip out. Ryan Lampert, Adam Proto, Greg Wyshynski, any of these pro stats guy, we have to change the game so advanced stats do work. Because like I said, I think there's something to it. I think there is something to CORSI, and I think there's some value there. But CORSI doesn't work if you're sitting on your ass.
See, here's the other thing to think about too with this whole CORSI thing, and maybe it's just dawning on me because I am still basically a hockey novice. But there's a direct correlation between goons and people who fight and CORSI in this type of respect. If you fight, you get sent off the ice. You put your team at a disadvantage for up to 5 minutes in some cases, correct?
Well,
so
yeah, I mean,
basically what you're doing
it can
is
be an exchange,
you are
too.
creating a disadvantage to your team, which directly affects puck possession.
Sure.
Because if you're down a man or two men, obviously the other team is going to have more opportunities to control the puck.
Well, here's
and
the
that
thing.
might
If you
have
get an
more to do with
instigator,
it than the goonage or anything.
If you get an instigator, if you take a guy off that's, I mean, obviously I would love to make an exchange for
Sidney Crosby.
Yeah, exactly, to get him off.
Boom.
So
Yeah.
that's a winning exchange. But if you get a 2-minute minor, even if you take Crosby off and you get a 2-minute minor on top of that, you got to deal with Malkin and Kunitz.
Exactly.
So there is a strategy there. That's what the Philadelphia Flyers used enforcing for. So all right, let's say the enforcer dies as we know it, but there's still such thing as still get 5-minute majors for fighting. Maybe a guy like Wayne Simmons, a type of player like Wayne Simmons that can pest, that can play, that can fight is the enforcer of the future. Because I got to be honest with you, I would just pummel these guys, and I wonder if that's what they're going to realize. If I tell you something, if the Blue Jackets get off to a big start this year, it'd be because they look mean, they look tough, they look tough. I mean, another thing is about look at games like soccer, like hockey, like field hockey, like handball. Why is it such a fucking revelation? Why is it such a revelation that puck possession and or like time on the ball, like in soccer, is gives you a direct advantage? No shit. I mean, look, everybody knew that before. Yeah, they're able to calculate it now, but this is not a revelation. But the thing is,
I have an answer for you.
I mean, but the stat is new, but control the puck. Everybody acts like they never heard that before.
I got an answer for you. I can tell you exactly why.
Yeah.
Because a whole bunch of people who love hockey, the Ryan Lamperts of the world, that could never fucking dream of getting on the ice or being in charge of the team, they found a way in other sports where the nerds, the people who crunch the numbers, fucking make some money and be a part of their fucking team. So what they did was they took something that was obvious and they turned it into a goddamn paradigm. They turned it into a fucking choice, thought process of how to control the game. And they made that a big key ingredient in the CORSI. And now, guess what? These motherfuckers are getting hired onto their goddamn teams that they grew up worshiping but can never be a part of.
No,
it's all about money and fucking being a part of something that they could not be a part of.
They have no
before.
business being a part of. No, I said that over the summer when Kyle Dubas was retired. I said this is really, the nerds are going to go nuts here because they think, I mean, these guys think like, look, it's just the culture kept me out, and everybody called me a pussy when I played, and I had no guts. So this is my way to get into the game. Because I have an understanding of advanced stats. Now, the thing
and they use something that everybody knows, like puck possession. Everybody knows what puck possession is, so they use that as their basis.
Puck possession, no shit. Yeah. I mean, I don't, like I said, I don't think CORSI's a bad stat. I want to see, they brought in Robbins over there for the very simple reason that he had better CORSI numbers in the minors than Sean Thornton. So they brought him in, and
we need a bigger sample size.
Look, in today's NHL, and it's been this way for a while, you gotta, it's not like the 80s where you could bring one monster up there. You gotta be able to skate. You got to be able to hold on to the puck. And if you can't hold on to the puck, you better dish it to somebody who can. So, I mean, Jake Muzzin's already leading in CORSI. He's one of the top guys in CORSI overall so far. Interesting enough, the Kings won what? They lost 2 out of 3. We'll see with this stuff. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that. But, yeah, Leafs win.
And that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, that's right. Cool.
My poor attempt at a Stone Cold.
Yeah. You're on a Cronin show, right?
Yeah.
You guys can get cut promos on each other later. So, all right, that's basically all I said to that. Now the Leafs, on the upside, the Leafs look focused. They look focused in the other games. They were in there every time the Rangers kind of got any momentum going. They slapped them back, and that's what you want to do. I just don't think if you get a more physical team, they're not going to be able to do it. And those physical teams, maybe I was wrong. The physical teams are maybe in the Western Conference. I mean, I don't think they're going to do that against St. Louis Blues. You know, I don't think they could do it. And then
I think a big part of it also is Kessel getting going. Kessel has not done fucking shit.
Yeah,
up to this point.
yeah, that's true. I mean, it is early. You know, I accept your argument that it's early. You're 100% correct. But I think
it's a long season.
Under normal circumstances, if there wasn't this thing riding in the background, and my greatest fear is we're talking about advanced stats all year and not the game. It's like, I mean, advanced stats.
Yeah, I've already heard enough of fucking CORSI.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you something. You know, advanced stats could, here's another thing that nobody thinks about. Advanced stats could make the game unmarketable. You know, you said before, it's like, well, what if it made it more marketable? What if it doesn't?
No, I'm saying they think it might make it
more
marketable.
Okay, yeah, sure, yeah. Well, yeah, if nobody's getting hurt, I mean, hell out of here. You know, I was reminded this week how many injuries there was. Evander Kane got injured. Dan Boyle, the New York Rangers. Zuccarello got injured. There's a lot of injuries this week. A lot of guys aren't playing. This is a very, very dangerous sport. And for some reason, somewhere along the line, Canadians and North Americans and maybe even Europeans were under the impression that this wasn't a dangerous sport. No, this is a dangerous sport with a hell of a lot of injuries and potentially career life-changing or life-ending injuries in the worst-case scenario. Fuck. I was so happy.
You just drop your mic?
No, I just bounced it. That's all.
Drop the mic and walk off.
Hey, touch off in some news right near. Jonas Brodin got a 6-year, $25 million extension with the Wild. Picked up 8 goals last year, 19 points. Some people were talking about him as far as Calder Trophy last year, but I guess he kind of skipped out on his defensive responsibilities. But that's a big signing for the Minnesota Wild. Here's another thing, a quick topic, something of note. The mayor of San Jose showed up for the Sharks home game, and since there's like 17 captains on that team, nobody knew the captain's supposed to go over and shake the hand. So they have 17 captains, and the Sharks look completely ridiculous. Thornton was talking to Pavelski or whatever who was talking to this one, and the mayor's standing there like a damn fool. Like, who goes up there? There's the problem. There is the problem with having 15 captains. This is stupid. An issue there. This is dumb. It's actually embarrassing. Now the Sharks aren't playing that bad.
They're 2-0 though.
No, the Sharks aren't playing that bad. But I'm sorry, this is embarrassing. It's stupid. And let's face it,
they have yet to give up a goal.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because Anthony Niemi's setting the world on fire. Absolutely. But
guess what? It's 2 fucking games.
Guess who? Yeah. Well, guess what too? Joe Thornton's still the captain of that team. Let's face it.
Oh yeah.
They did. This is. I wonder if that is. Opening up against LA, having to see that cup, having that series rubbed in their face. This ridiculous thing with the captaincy. Maybe we don't know the players. Like they shouldn't have done that to Jumbo Joe. That's our guy. All right, we all fucked up. It wasn't just the captain's fault. Why are they stripping him his captaincy? This is stupid. How much you want to bet he gets it back?
Oh, he should.
Yeah.
But I wonder. Like my mind works strangely. So I'm like in my mind, I'm like, are they in like the locker room going, you're a captain and you're a captain and you're a captain. Oh, and you're a captain.
Everybody's a captain.
Like everybody gets a fucking participation ribbon.
Yeah, I know. It looks like that, but the series that they were hoping Joe was going to leave town. They gambled if they could humiliate him. Obviously, he's a lot stronger than that. I think it says something about Joe Thornton. I don't care. These are my guys. These are my team. You can not put a so a C on my jersey or an A. You can do whatever you want. But I'm still going to play hard for my team. And I think Joe's an older man now. Bouncing around at this stage in his career, maybe something he's not all that interested in. Maybe he wants to retire in a year or two. So, really low move, embarrassing move by the Sharks. Yeah, they're 2-0, but I don't. If it helps the Sharks win this year, it will be sort of a situation where they're uniting against management. Maybe that's what they need.
Maybe.
So they'll all take credit for it, but let's face it. The original reason for this was to chase Joe out of town because they wanted to go with the youth movement. But maybe it'll work out for the Sharks in the end. There'd be a really. I tell you something. There's the Stanley Cup final. That would be a very interesting story. How the story started and ended, and what that would be a wild story. I'd probably be pulling the Sharks They weren't going on the
Long
parade.
way to go.
Yeah, long way to go. But think about that story, how this kind of like a 1978 New York Yankees things with all the crazy stuff going on in the locker room. I wonder if that would make something interesting. Don Cherry got his time cut to about 5 minutes. He even makes reference early on to being phased out, phased out altogether. I looked at some old John Cherry videos, and he was anywhere from 8 to 12 minutes. There was also I know you're not as hip to this, and
I like Don Cherry, but I have a different
what's going
rationale
on with
the thinking.
well, Rogers Media bought Hockey Night in Canada. So obviously the first talk last year when this happened was what happens to Don, and they of course assured everybody that Don would be there, and it would almost have to be there. It'd be just a ratings nightmare.
Sure.
They would just people would go nuts. They can't get rid of him. Here's another thing. I don't know if you know. The Canadian media, the CBC, has been doing absolutely everything to get rid of Don Cherry pretty much since he got there.
I've heard about
because of his popularity. His refusal. He's been fired from there a few times, and then what happened is the general manager that fired him gets fired before he does. It's like, you're done after this season. Okay, sure. Because they don't say get the hell out of here because they're terrified. What will happen if they do? So what they were doing is that apparently they're phasing out his partner Ron McLean, which is probably a better strategy. Cut off his legs, and then cutting his time to about 5 minutes. I mean, I don't know how much you understand. Like, so many people have grown up since the early '80s with Don Cherry after his stint with the Boston Bruins and the then Colorado Avalanche.
Oh, I know what type of cherished
Colorado
person
Rockies.
he is,
Excuse me, Colorado Rockies. It's been such a thing, but every effort has been kind of fell by the wayside. A lot of this is because Don is apparently a Canadian equivalent to a Republican, and his politics are really not on par with the CBC, which is supposed to be a government fair and balanced type thing, which it isn't, of course, like most government television outlets. So they decided to phase him out, and they're bringing this sort of I don't know. His name is George Stroumboulopoulos, if I'm saying that correctly. George does an interview show. I like it. Yeah, he's sort of center left leaning, but he interviews a lot of different people and he lets them talk. And but to bring this sort of Generation X douchey looking guy with earrings in Hockey Night in Canada, who's not a hockey man, who doesn't have a hockey background, who freely admits to having parents that didn't really teach him how to skate, it is just kind of uncomfortable. And it kind of goes into my thing before with like sort of feminizing things. And it's like we have to bring this sort of hipster on Hockey Night in Canada. They're forcing the issue. Do people want softer hockey? They want softer personalities? I don't know. Me personally, I forgot to cut the phone number off. Me personally, I kind of like tougher guys when it comes to sports.
Yeah, well, I think there's another way of looking at this too, and you could be right. It could be a toughness thing. Here's the way I look at it. I love Don Cherry. I think he's great. Here's the thing. He's old as fuck, and at times he can sound fucking insane and senile.
But he's been sounding insane for 30 years.
Hold on. I think that the younger demographic of people who are tuning in to watch hockey, and maybe not just in Canada but in the United States as well, that are seeing Don Cherry, maybe there's some kind of study out there that is showing that they're not connecting with Cherry. So like, I can't defend the hiring of Stroumboulopoulos, fucking Galapagos Island guy. I can't fucking defend that, other than saying that they replace the old with something that's new and hip and that's in vogue right now. Which
I think that's what they honestly. I think that's what you want, or they want you to believe. But I honestly, I mean,
I know you always think that there's something else there with.
No, I don't. I don't
political.
Believe that.
Most of the
I think
times,
it is.
But
the CBC is. It's not a conspiracy theory to say that they're highly politically
I didn't
motivated.
say it was a conspiracy.
Yeah. No. I'm sorry, but I mean, yeah. That's the thing. We know that they've tried to move him out before. We know that he's actually had a racism investigation based on the fact that he said most of the Euros wear visors, which turned out to be statistically true, which got him off on the lawsuit because Canada has these crazy pseudo courts, hate speech courts and what have you, that I won't get into. I don't buy that. I think people, I like George, I do. I like his interviewing. I highly recommend some of the interviews on YouTube. He's got a ton of them. He is sort of a center left guy. I don't think he's a bad guy, but he's sort of this good looking douchey guy. I don't believe people go to hockey for not.
No, people went to hockey.
No, I don't buy that. I still
Nowadays,
don't buy
the
that.
culture
And I
is
bet,
changing.
I
Whether
bet
you
there's no
like it or
evidence to
not, or
show
whether
that.
you want to acknowledge it or not, the culture is changing. Unfortunately,
I don't. No. I don't buy that. I don't buy that. Here's the
it's
thing.
all around you.
You could say
look
no.
everywhere.
It's
there.
Well, I think of what Dr. Laura said about 10 years ago, and it would outrage everybody. She said that video games were feminizing men. I wonder if that's actually true. But look, I don't buy that, and I'll tell you because they tried to move him out before. I don't.
I understand your argument in that regards.
I don't buy it at all. That
could just be a personal vendetta.
It makes no sense. Even with ESPN, you got that fat bastard Chris Berman that even he's a big softie too, but he talks tough and he's big. Chris
Berman has also changed so much of his personality over the last 15 years. That he has changed so much to go with the times. And if you notice, they put people around him to make him less threatening and more connectable. The people that they put around, aside from Mike Ditka, everybody else they put around, it's to soften the stance a little bit in the NFL. You see it all the time, especially with Berman. I'm glad you brought him up.
I have a little trouble believing they're going to the books and saying, "Hey, people want a bunch of pansies on screen." I don't buy that. Maybe they want more pansies. If you're in charge, you can influence. In the CBC. I want more pansies. We're going to give you pansies. Now, at the end of the day, they're going to have to get the ratings. But let's face it, the CBC is a government organization. And they can decide at the end of the day what you see, which is the problem. That's why all TV should be private. So, speaking of what you said, I got a call from one of the callers in French County. He wanted to rail on Mike Milbury, basically, for this. In 2011.
Very seldom do we agree on
Pierre McGuire.
One thing I'd like to see in the 06 season in the Ontario Hockey League, they decided to put a zero tolerance on headshots. If you look at the developmental process in that league, 30 first-round picks, Mike, out of the Ontario Hockey League with that zero tolerance on headshots. I want to see the league go more towards that.
They got the rules already to prevent headshots. They've added a couple more that make it even more difficult. But you're not going to baby-proof the league, Pierre. You're trying to baby-proof it again. Good soccer mom, Pierre McGuire, is now trying to baby-proof it. There's hits to the head all the time. There's going to be hits. If you go down and bend over to get a puck, I got to be responsible for watching out for what I do. That means I got to take the hit punishment-wise when you're the guy that's making the mistake. Don't buy it.
This league needs two things, fans and great players, and I don't want to see great players sitting up in the stands with the fans.
First of all, great players are going to be sitting up in the stands when they get hurt. It's a dead, inherently dangerous game. And Milbury was right. But boy, have the times have changed. You can't baby-proof the league. There's no such thing. You can't baby-proof anything in life. Your baby could still swallow marbles.
Yeah, I think that though that's taking an extreme stance onto a statement that has a lot of merit. Well, the statement was zero tolerance on headshots creates a little bit more, a little bit better product. And I think that there's merit to that. Milbury, to fucking throw water on that fire, says a statement that everybody can get behind. You can't he used scary words to lighten someone else's argument because he didn't have an argument of his own. That's what happened right there.
No, I completely disagree with you. I think on that point.
We're doing that a lot today.
No, it's been it's a very contentious show. I like it.
I like it.
I know I disagree with you wholeheartedly. I think Milbury mentioned that he did have an argument. He mentioned they've made several changes before. And here's what happens. You make these changes, they don't work! And it's like, well, we have to make more. And then it's just like
I don't see that.
Yeah, I do. They have made more and more changes. And not only that, the changes they made in some ways are more dangerous. They don't suspend guys that have higher skill sets. We've seen this with Rick Nash. We've seen this with, what's his name, over in Arizona last year.
But wouldn't that end with zero tolerance? That would end with zero tolerance.
Zero tolerance is stupid.
But what you just said would be ended with zero tolerance. If it's a zero tolerance policy, they can't fucking give higher skill players one suspension and the lower skill players.
But they have it now. This was in 2011. The clip I played you was in 2011.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. So they don't have it now. They supposedly have it now. It hasn't worked.
Oh, there's not I have not seen a zero tolerance policy.
And now all of a sudden, Mike Milbury, they supposedly do. That's what the player safety thing is before. This is just prior to Shanahan getting his job or just during the Shanahan era. I
you
can't
see
remember.
Hits that go uncalled all the time.
Of course. It's a joke. You can't baby-proof the league. Some people are going to see it differently. There's politics behind the scene. We saw that with Rick Nash. He got away with suspension. Hell, they made a video why he did get suspended. Look it up on YouTube. It's unbelievable when he clearly hits this guy in the head with his stick. So,
I just haven't
and
seen
then
the
now,
policies.
all of a sudden, hey, key teams are going for puck possession. There's more CORSI, right? But we got to grow up, get rid of fighting. What the fuck happened to you? Probably because of this incident.
Getting old.
Big pussy.
Getting old. Fucking
60-year-old.
fearing for his job.
Probably a little both.
Change your politics.
That's what I. That's
stay
what I
around a
wanted.
little while longer.
That's what I wanted. Matthew Cesar specifically called up to say that Mike Milbury was a big fat hypocrite.
A hypocritical bad. I agree.
Based on calling Pierre Maguire a soccer mom. And it's funny because Maguire's statements have become tougher over the years. This is why everybody hated Pierre Maguire, because of statements like that. And it almost seems I like Maguire now, and I hate listening to Milbury. What the fuck is going on? What parallel universe am I living in? Mika Zibanejad. That one. Mika Zibanejad, best player in the NHL.
It's a strange world we live in.
Yeah.
But, Milbury is soft in his stance, and Pierre is kind of hard in his stance. So, I mean, maybe it's as simple as that.
Strombo's a hipster douche.
This is my favorite show we've done.
It was
This
a
is
good
my
one.
favorite show
Yeah,
we've
because
done.
you know why? It's like, your sports talk heroes. It was a lot like that.
It was.
Yeah,
This was like
yeah.
PTI for hockey.
Damn good show. You got anything to plug or anything? And then we'll get the hell out of here.
Yeah, check out my channel, The Dead on Dave on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
and follow me on Twitter at Dead on Dave V, and we'll do some sexy stuff together.
All right. Listen, I'm actually really sorry that we didn't get to do this live, but I'm starting sort of a job today.
Yeah.
Look, here's the way we'll do it. I'm going to decide whether I'm going to start putting this on 3. I think that's better for North America, and that's what we're gearing it towards. Here's what I can promise you. I'll have these shows up Monday through Thursday as much as I can, and for some reason, me and Dave can do it live. We'll do it live!
Yeah.
We'll do it live! Go!
Take your calls, bitches.
They sting! We'll do it live! my best Bill O'Reilly. We'll do it live! You ever see that clip? It's fucking amazing.
Oh, yeah. Where he's drunk off his ass.
No, we'll do it live! God, I fucking love it. I'm losing my mind. My hair's coming out. I look ridiculous. I mean, you got to see this. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to In the Crease Tommy C. See you next time. Little morning ice. All right, how you like your morning ice? I like it with a little Dev on Dave and a touch of C. See you later.
Tend to simply say that love is an old that cry. It's such a love of the life they found, because it's the only way to don't cry and go. You're looking to love. You're so fucking great. I know you're looking to love.
Check out tonight's game for October 13th.